Buildings! Building buildings. The building buildings building. Building buildings building. Building buildings building. Building 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 buildings building. And video games. Today I'm going to be discussing which building system in video games feels the best. I say feels the best instead of, can do the most, because if we're comparing just the upper limits of creating things in games, then you're comparing modded Minecraft to just importing Blender projects into Planet Coaster, and that's barely a game design conversation anymore. So, to keep everything as fair as possible, we're just looking at the base vanilla experience, right? No mods, no cheats, no add-ons, just the straight up survival / campaign mode for everything. And while looking through that, we're going to be looking at what makes them enjoyable or unenjoyable, the pros and cons of each, trying to figure out which one is the best to implement, which one lets you do the most for the least amount of effort. I wanted to initially do this as a tier list, obviously, right? It would work well for that, but I felt like it would evolve into me having to buy every game out there that allows you to build something so I could give each one a rank. And not only is there the obvious monetary hindrance to doing that, but I don't think it's necessary to look at every single one. For example, is building in Ark radically different than building in Rust? Not really. There are a lot of games out there that feel extremely similar to others, so I'm pretty sure that I can get my main point across here while just looking at a handful of them. So, without further ado, first up is The Sims. This one is near and dear to my heart because it's one of the very few games that my girlfriend actually likes to play. And yes, to clarify, it is specifically Sims 3. Sims 4 is newer, sure, but it caters more to like the roleplay and actually playing with your Sims, whereas Sims 3 caters better to building, I think. Anywho, let's get down to brass tacks. The Sims 3 is interesting compared to all of the other games that we're going to talk about because it gives you the tools that you need to create perfect realism. In a lot of these games, you're trying to bend the laws of that particular reality to make something that feels like home. Like putting activator rails on top of a furnace to make a stove, using a streetlight and a revolver to make a beer tap, or desperately trying to bend the laws of physics to make something that slightly resembles your home in a world where nothing even close to your home exists. Sims 3 is the perfect game to make your dream home in, and you get to really live in it vicariously. You get to lay out your floor plan, place all of your fixtures in all of your rooms, then watch as it plays out just as it would in real life. The main strength of The Sims is that it's also incredibly easy to do that. I mean, to make a good house that actually feels and looks realistic, you do need to have an eye for design and possess some attention for detail. But the tools that you're given make it so easy to make what you want. I love being able to drag walls, have things snap into position on those walls for you, and the grid system. Sure, other games out there offer you more freedom, but that freedom comes hand in hand with a significant increase in difficulty. That'll be a recurring theme throughout this whole video, but the big strength of The Sims 3 is that it has an intuitive and user-friendly system that lets you build great-looking and realistic houses and other buildings with relative ease. Also, oh my god, the ability to have walls drop away when you're trying to look through them, I would commit a flurry of felonies to have that option brought into other games. It makes it so much easier to work when you couple that with being able to toggle the roof on and off and move between floors. Now, confession time. In recent memory, I've only played The Sims 3 using the Motherload cheat. It just gives your Sims a bunch of money, right? So when you use that cheat, it lets you free build a house just like you would normally, but when you first move your Sims in, you can just instantly give them all the money they need to move into that perfect dream house that you just made. But I mean, if you start the game and play it the way that you should without giving your Sims a small fortune immediately, it's a little slower. Nothing really drastically changes. In Sims, you don't unlock any new building parts as you go, right? It's not like you have to go down to Lowe's and then pick out new windows and tubs and doors and shit. It's all right there from the jump. And the only resource that you need to get it in your house is money. It's as streamlined and easy as it can possibly be to put together an awesome house and live in it vicariously. So to sum up, or sim up, am I right? Sorry. To sim up, The Sims offers you a very simple and user-friendly system to create fantastic-looking realistic houses at the expense of some of the freedom that the other games offer. It really just lets you coast through as you're building. It's really a coaster. A planet coaster. Alright, get out of here with the bad puns. Jeez, how embarrassing was it? Oh, fuck. Anyways, Planet Coaster is the only game that I have ever pre-ordered and bought early access for. I watched Silverette build Grizzly Valley, then I threw my money at Frontier and didn't sleep for 3 days. Planet Coaster is probably my favorite game to make buildings in, but you can't really experience them the same way that you can in The Sims. Like, everything can look perfect, but that's about where it ends. Like, most windows are just facades, they don't really work, there are no functioning doors just for people to open, and making complex functional interiors is borderline impossible because of the path and barrier system. Making the path out of the floor is already kind of the hard part, but then if you use too many barriers to guide people along, it breaks their pathfinding. It's just a whole mess. But if we don't focus on making perfect interiors, then Planet Coaster and by extension Planet Zoo offer some of the best creative tools out there. This is my current big project, the Apex Outlands, a whole little theme park based around Apex Legends. There's no other game that I could do something like this in, like, at all. I didn't really want to copy any of the Apex maps one-to-one, so I just ran around on my own looking at all the architecture, all of the designs, and trying to figure out what made the buildings in Apex really look like buildings from Apex. There are a lot of recognizable features that I tried to implement, but the main characteristic that's present across every single map are the doors. Planet Coaster let me take a bunch of these individual small pieces and use them to make replicas of the individual doors and the big sliding ones. Getting those into position makes things really look like they're from the game. Planet Coaster is the only game that I can think of where you can really make individual small custom little pieces just like that. But using some bigger pieces too, I can make replicas of the orbital cannons, and because you can import your own images onto the screens, I got to hang banners just like they do in the game. So Planet Coaster's main strength is that it has limitless potential and possibilities. But remember, I can't judge this game based solely on the sandbox mode, even though that's how the overwhelming majority of people play this game. You see this achievement here? 6.7% of players have unlocked King Coaster's Royal Decree. How do you do that? You just have to beat 6 of the campaign levels. Just 6 of them. And 93% of the players haven't done that. But it's for good reason. In the campaign levels in Planco, you are restricted in every conceivable manner, so it makes sense why people don't play these modes all that often. You're usually confined to a small area without the ability to landscape or terraform. A lot of the scenery objects might be locked behind research, and of course you need to earn money to build. Focusing on the research aspect though, it has been improved from Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. In RCT 3, you would allocate some money to your scenery research budget, right? And then after a while, you would finally unlock a single wall or a single roof piece from a single set. It sucked. In Planet Coaster now, you can just research an entire theme, an entire set of pieces all at once. And you can also have 3 research projects going at once. But in some levels, some pieces, some scenery sets, some shops, some rides, some whatever may be permanently locked. Like you can't even research them. In this park, for example, the only drink shops that I was able to get were milkshakes and milk. Imagine that, you're walking around a hot theme park all day in the sun. Oh my god, you just want some water, maybe a soda if you're a degenerate, but all there is milk. This is hell. Suffice to say, I am not a fan of not being able to unlock everything in each level. And the other big restriction, of course, is money. Now, if you just want to build stuff and you're playing career mode, it's not that big of a deal, right? Buildings aren't that expensive. But that's not what you're playing career mode for. In career mode, you need to hit objectives. More often than not, those objectives revolve around building new coasters and new rides. And now, check this out. This is my tried and true little coaster blueprint. It is insultingly short, but it has good ratings and it's cheap. It is the cheapest coaster that I could save as a blueprint that would be available with every park. I literally named it Cheap Shite, and it's still $7,000. You start most levels with a cash amount of around $10,000. So in these levels, it's pretty safe to assume that like a clean 80% of your budget is going to be going to coasters, rides, shops, and wages. It doesn't really leave you with the money that you need to run wild. And sure, you could just beat the level and then leave the park running so it generates a ton of money, and then you're basically playing in sandbox, right? But then you're stuck in a level where you might not be able to terraform, and you might have things permanently locked through research. And that's without mentioning the biggest conflict with the building system in career mode. Most of these levels I can beat in the neighborhood of 1 hour, give or take. But building something simple like this station cover took me over 30 minutes. Why am I gonna spend that much time on a building in any of these scenarios when I'm gonna beat the entire level and probably never touch the park again in a couple hours? Remember how the big strength of The Sims was that it was easy and fluid to build things at the expense of some of your freedom? Planet Coaster is the polar opposite. You have unlimited freedom, but it is insanely hard to build anything. Like looking at that Apex park again, you might have been thinking, wow, okay, like you barely have anything done. That is 6 months of work. Building on its own is the challenge in Planet Coaster. Adding restrictions in the career or challenge modes just make the game straight up not fun. So, Planet Coaster as a creative building tool? Hell yes. But Planet Coaster as a game with restrictions and challenges? Hard no, from me. I hope I got my point across there cohesively, but now let's look at a different kind of challenge. Quick interjection, it's been a week since I recorded that last clip. That's my bad for dragging ass with the uploads, of course, but oh my god, I was just not ready for chemistry and calculus together. Holy shit. But now, survival games, specifically Ark, Valheim, and No Man's Sky. Those are the three that I have the most playtime in, and they're all pretty similar, but also have really cool differences that make them each unique. These are the games where you have a build menu. It shows you a hologram, and then you slap pieces together and they all stick and snap, and it makes it all nice. These build systems are present in a ton of games nowadays. In the previous games, you only needed money to place an object, and in Plan Co, you might have to research it. In most survival games, you unlock new pieces as you progress. Then you need to go and collect the resources to actually build them. It makes building overall a lot harder, but it also makes it feel more rewarding. Most of the time. In Ark, for example, I love saddling up a dinosaur, rolling out to get some materials, and then leading it back to the base. I love how Ark integrates your dinosaurs into the building process. It makes the whole thing way more fun. In Valheim, it's a different story. Farming materials is much harder and is very often deadly. There are ways to make farming the base materials in Valheim way easier. You can plant a bunch of trees really close together, and then when you go to harvest them with your axe, they'll all knock each other down as they fall. It's super fun, but that can still be scary and dangerous. And if you need a bunch of stone, for example, you can place down a portal and name it something like rock, then run into the plains, find one of those big stone pillars, and place the exit portal right on top of it. That lets you farm the pillar and then run the stone straight back to your base. But still, if you need advanced materials like metals or tar, it can still be a pain. Now in No Man's Sky, we have an interesting conundrum. This is my current base. Nothing outrageous, I'm still pretty new, honestly. But to farm the materials for this is all I do. Yep. Oh, we're done, thank God. Farming materials in No Man's Sky is so easy, it almost just feels like a chore. A lot of the times it's easier to use one of the duplication glitches to get rich and then just buy what you need. As a result, I don't think you really get that same rewarding sensation when you finish a build in No Man's Sky. It's not like you risk your life or your dinosaurs to go and get some materials. You just go outside, laser rocks for 20 seconds, and you're done. In survival games specifically, half of what makes building really fun and engaging is going out and getting what you need, then working with what you've gathered. When you get to finally put that build together and take shelter for the first time in that base that you made with your own two hands, it makes you appreciative and thankful for all of that work that you put in. It makes it so worthwhile. Now, in terms of which of these three systems feels the best, it's Valheim, and by a lot. Valheim offers you so much freedom for a survival game, and it has the perfect amount of realism. You need to support your structures and your roofs or else they'll literally just fall apart. It gives you a reason to build support beams and cool gable structures, and it all looks great because of that. You also have to consider smoke ventilation if you want to use certain fireplaces or lighting pieces, which makes you have to alter the roof. It's so cool. And you can also do some minor finagling to get pieces to pop off of a wall by just a bit, which allows you to really detail your builds if you want. In Ark and No Man's Sky, there's not really that same option to detail your base in that way. You can lay out a cool design for your base, like a cool floor plan, but if you want your base to be instantly visually distinctive, it's way harder to do that in Ark and No Man's Sky than it is in Valheim. But again, survival games aren't just all about being a beauty contest. Even if your base looks similar to all the other ones that you've seen, you still form a personal connection with yours. When you're you're playing Ark and you get to close those doors behind you and know that you're safe, that none of the monsters outside can get you, it feels cozy, comforting. In Valheim, if I get raided at my main base or my fortress, I literally do not give a single shit anymore because there is nothing in the game that can even put a scratch on my walls. And in No Man's Sky, even though it's probably the least rewarding building system, I think it might be the most satisfying game to take shelter in. After sifting through what felt like 100 terrible, barren planets, I found this one. It was vibrant, had so much plant life, blue waters, so many cool animals, it was gorgeous. I wanted to settle down here so bad. But this planet gets hit by superheated rainstorms at least once a day. But now, since I have my base set up, when those superheated storms come in, I get to run inside and take shelter. I can watch the steam churning outside, listen to the rain pitter-pattering on the roof, and know that I'm safe inside. It makes me really feel like I'm forging my own path on the frontier of space, like I'm really out here surviving on a foreign planet. It's that personal connection that survival games allow you to make with your builds that makes them so enjoyable to create things in. And you don't need anything fancy. You could beat each of these games with just a box with a bed and some chests. But making a home for yourself, making something that looks great, that you can be happy and take pride in when you see it coming over the horizon, is incredible. Building in these games feels so much more impactful, meaningful, and personal than it does in Planet Coaster or The Sims. You're not experiencing anything vicariously. You get to actually live in what you make. You get to utilize your creation. And I think that that is the biggest strength of these games. You don't have anywhere near the same building potential that you do in something like Planet Coaster, and building in survival games is light years more difficult. But the way you get to interact with what you make is what really makes these games spectacular. But hey, isn't there another survival game that's like the biggest of all time? Why would I leave off the most popular survival game? Because it needs its own section. Now look, Minecraft is probably the best building game of all time. You can do whatever you want with no restrictions. If you've seen some of the crazy mecha builds that people make, you know that there are no limits, no bounds to what you can produce as long as you're okay with it being made out of blocks. And you can give whatever you make a decorated, functional interior. It's amazing. You add redstone on top of all that, and Minecraft becomes the ultimate sandbox, the best at what it does. But it's nowhere close to being the game that's the most enjoyable to build in. And again, like we looked at The Sims with no mods, no cheats, Planco in plain vanilla career mode, and all of the survival games with no mods and no cheats, we have to look at Minecraft in plain vanilla survival. In this game, sure, there's potential for you to build a grand castle with cool stables, an enchanter's tower, a roaring fireplace, but getting there is gonna be a journey. I used to be deep into Minecraft. I knew everything about it. So I don't know if I'm missing something, but these days it takes so much longer to get a full set of diamond tools and 30 levels to enchant even one of them. And at least for me, that's a problem, because there's no chance in hell that I'm gonna waste my time mass gathering wood and stone with iron tools or burning through diamonds trying to replace higher quality ones. In the previously mentioned survival games, the list of resources is very minimal. So once you have something unlocked, you can pretty much just jump straight into building. Each of those games also makes it preposterously easy to repair your gear, so once you're fully kitted out, there's really not much left to do other than expand your base and progress. But to get to that same point in Minecraft where I feel like I can just collect resources and build, I need to have all diamond tools with Unbreaking 3, Efficiency 5, and Mending. At least. I feel like it's because I've played it so much, where if I'm using anything that's not the top tier, I literally feel like I'm wasting my time and it makes it less enjoyable. And to mass gather stones without wanting to cry, I also make it a priority to get a haste 2 beacon set up. Not to mention that if you want to build with a lot of something like, oh, I don't know, sandstone or terracotta, you then need to go find a desert or a mesa, and it's also probably worth your time at that point to just set up nether portal connections as well so you can get back and forth more easily. There's so much that you have to do in Minecraft, so many hours of work before you can really dedicate yourself to building. I know people who won't start building until they get shulker boxes to really make that trip to the mesa, to the desert, to the jungle, whatever, really worth it, so that they can bring back a huge amount of resources. Shulker boxes are in the end. which means that they won't start building until they beat the game. And again, you may be thinking, okay, so what? You have to farm materials in all the other games too, and you just said it could be a bitch, right? Well, after you farm materials in Minecraft, the process of building on its own is straight up tedious. I like to make things that look as good as I can manage, but doing that takes forever. Placing everything block by block, detailing with trapdoors, with signs, with whatever, takes ages. Placing one little piece at a time with a limited inventory is grueling. Remember in Planet Coaster where you can just copy and paste wall segments? Sims where you can drag them, or any of the survival games where things just snap together quickly in chunks. It is so much easier to get things done in any other game than it is to get them done in Minecraft. Minecraft gives you the ultimate amount of freedom in exchange for any kind of fluidity or accessibility. And now I will say that because of that, completing a project in Minecraft feels way better than it does in any other game. Walking through your base, you remember placing and crafting each block. You remember where you had to go to gather each material. Your base becomes a museum of the time that you've spent in the world. But because of how arduous the process of building can be, I rarely play in pure survival. Unless I feel a ridiculous urge to play Minecraft for months on end, I just can't justify spending so much time getting things set up or farming materials just so that I can build something. Sometimes when you're feeling creative and you just want to make something, you just want to build, taking on all of this work is just too much to commit to. Now, like I said, there are many games out there that allow you to build and construct things from your wildest dreams, but I think this selection gets my point across. I think there's a sweet spot that you can try to strive to hit with a building system in a game. On one end, you have accessibility and user friendliness, and on the other end, you have complete user freedom. And right down the middle, you have the perfect little gems. I think the more you offer the player the ability to do whatever they want, the harder it is for them to actually do it. No, you can't make anything that you want in The Sims, but it's beyond easy to make a realistic home. And you can make an incredible castle, with every inch of it custom molded how you see fit in Minecraft, but I'll call you in a couple weeks to see if you've finished even a portion of the exterior. So personally, I prefer something right down the middle or a little off to the freedom side. Valheim and Planet Coaster are my two favorite games to build in. Valheim because resource gathering is super balanced where it doesn't feel tedious and the physics make it really engaging and interesting to build in. And Planet Coaster because if I can picture it, I can do it. And the ability to copy and paste, holy shit, what a game changer. In the future, I'll be really interested to see how games change to make building feel new. Will they go with something more difficult and intensive to allow for more player freedom? Or will they make building easier at the expense of some of the potential? Whatever they decide to go with, I know that I'll probably still end up dropping a couple hundred hours into it because damn it, I just like to build things. So, what's your favorite? Do you value freedom and potential or maximum accessibility? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. It's literally the whole reason that I make these videos. And thank you for watching the whole video if you did. I know that it's been pretty delayed. My classes really just beat my ass out of nowhere. I'm trying to catch up and get a handle on it, but hopefully it'll all smooth out now and I'll be able to get videos out faster again. Thank you for hanging around and being patient though, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.